This week's project is just a tiny one about making 4 small cushions, approximately 30 centimeters square, from some leftover yarn and some fabric. I had a couple of balls of Pampas Mega Chunky yarn by Wendy left over, so I've used a really simple garter stitch to make them into 60 by 30 centimeter rectangles. I won't show you how to do knitting because there are so many great videos out there already which can show you really well how to do that. I've used the shade described as black, although as you can see it's really quite an interesting charcoaly shade with all sorts of different shades and little bits of white and so on woven in. It's recommended that 12mm needles be used for this yarn, but I've used 4mm this time to keep the resultant fabric really dense. So, however, even though it's dense, when knitted up it's still really springy and elastic, so I'm going to make some liners of the correct size to hold the stuffing in and to maintain the correct size over time. I've already folded over and sewed 2 edges of each rectangle to make up the basic cushion shapes. Again, please check out other videos for how to do this invisibly and still keep the seams super flat. So I'm now making the cushion pads from an old sheet, left over from the days when maroon bedding was really de rigueur. Luckily we had this lying around because I want a dark colour so it doesn't show through the black knitted cushion case. Anyway, to make the cases, it's a really simple matter of cutting rectangles out of fabric, just a couple of centimetres over the size you want to allow for seams. Remember, you'll have a seam on both the top and the bottom, but only one on the side, if you make the liner itself by folding a rectangle rather than sewing together a pair of squares. So you need to allow for these seams in your measurements. Then, sew them around so that you have just one seam left open. Then stuff away. I'm using some old liners where the fabric really isn't up to standard, and some randover leftover bits of fire safe toy stuffing. Then you can either pin and machine sew the open edge closed, or if like my particular cushion liner here, yours is rather well packed, you might find it easier to overstitch by hand. Pop the knitted cushion cover over, and because of the knit and because the stuffing is fairly quick dry if I was to machine wash the cushions, I've decided to permanently oversew each inner inside the knitted cover. And that's it. Here's one of the finished cushions. Thanks for joining us. Please subscribe to follow more of our adventures, and we'll see you in the next one.